Hello, Gundam Seed fans. This is Speedball, and today for you guys, I have you from Gundam Seed Destiny and the High Grade Cosmic Era series. I have you the Gbase exclusive Freedom Gundam versus Impulse Gundam Battle of Destiny Metallic Revives. Yes, my friends, these are the revived variations of the Freedom Gundam and Impulse Gundam. And as you can see, like I mentioned, these are in their metallic variations. And I have to say, friends, these are actually pretty nice metallic versions of these two kits. And being that I've never actually built the revives before, this is actually my first time building these two. So it was actually quite a lot of fun. And I can definitely see why the seed revives are definitely well liked and such for many reasons. One being is that for color separation, yes, I know that some of them are not perfect, and then there are some that are just perfect, so to speak. And I could definitely say the Impulse and actually the Freedom weren't bad in that department. And I could say that because it actually surprised me with like the Freedom, for example. I figured for certain because it's an older revive to the Impulse that, it would have required more stickers. In fact, I can show you because this is the sticker sheet right here, my friends. Now, yes, it is a big sheet, but it's not for one specific unit. No, this is divided between these two and the extra accessories, which I will show you in a few minutes. Because as you can see, this one's for the Freedom, and this one's for the Impulse, and this is for the accessories right here. And as you can see, well, like the Freedom, really, it's not as bad as you would think. It's just more or less red trim parts and other small trim areas, and just, of course, standard eyes. And for the Impulse, it's pretty much similar. The difference being is that these would be are for the wing setups and other small details. Everything else is color separate, which actually surprised me. Like the gold you see here for the vents right there, I honestly won't lie, I could have seen that as a paint kind of situation. But instead, no, they were completely color separate. Definitely was great. I love that part. And such like that. And the last stickers you see would be these ones here. And this, as I mentioned, is for the special accessory, which I will go into in a few minutes. But first, let's take a look at these two up close. First, let's take a look at our old friend, the Freedom. So you can all see him in his unkillable glory, so to speak, if you know what I mean. But yes, as you can see, friends, the Freedom Revive is really not a bad kit. I know it's an older one, but really it's not bad. I didn't really have any issues building this. The details are really nice. And like I said, paint-wise, it's really not much to do. Everything is color separate pretty much, minus some minor details, which for Seed HGs, that is not uncommon. I mean, literally, like these sections here, this black, you got to do a little painting there. Let's see, this little section right there, a little bit on the inner verniers here, vents and such, and other small areas like that, and so forth, which honestly, if you've built any Seed HG, my friends, it's very common. It's just one of those common areas, really. It's not that bad. I mean, it'd be different if like you had to do the whole wing here or something, like it was just in black and you had to paint it all blue. That would be a completely different story. That would have been like a big, like, oh heck no, man, no. But no, other than that, it's really not that bad. Articulation wise, it's pretty good. I've had no major issues with it. Posability is fun, and the other such detailing and holding of weapons are good, minus certain ones, which I'll mention in a minute. But first, now let's take a look at our good buddy here, the Impulse. And just like I mentioned with the Freedom, it really is a nice build. The details are nice, and as I showed you with the stickers, color separation wise is definitely pretty good with this kit. I could definitely see why fans love the Impulses line. And it's definitely really nice. I do like it, but the metallic colors make it really look nice, and the details on the plastic look great. And like I said, small details I was surprised about, so that was pretty cool. And like I said, the only paint area you have to do really is like the red here on the wings, which honestly, for like a number of seed units, it's not uncommon, trust me. And other small details like the verniers and other small sections, really, that was pretty much it for that. Other than that, everything else is just pretty much out of the box. And articulation wise is good. I could definitely see why it's well liked and such for that. Accessories are a lot of fun with the Impulse too, that's for sure, which I'll get into in a second. But right now, let's make sure let's get a good comparison with these two by first moving their custom stand out of the way, and so I can adjust the camera for you all. And now, as you can see them together, my friends, they definitely look really nice together, even though, of course, being the title of this release, Battle of Destiny. And, well, spoiler if you haven't seen the anime. Well, put it simple, if you haven't seen the anime, please do. If you have, well, you pretty much know the outcome of the Hgce, the battle that these two will, of course, have, which is another reason why this set was released. But yes, it is definitely really nice to have these two together like this. And of course, real quick, why don't we take a look at their accessories specifically for this set so you can understand why this one's, different than just buying these two separate. Now, of course, you'll still, of course, come with the normal accessories these two will come with, like the shield parts they both use, other adapters and small stuff like that. But then you also get extra parts like a base adapter connector like this. And for specifically in this case, the Impulse, you will have other accessories like this, a complete sword Impulse boomerang weapon and a connector, which unfortunately you don't really need for this specific version. You, of course, will have beam sabers, and of course, you'll have other support mechs like this. But because of the specific set, you will also have, as I already showed you already, a much larger impulse sword weapon that you can, of course, attach to the Gundam, but specifically this one is larger because it's designed to attach to this special torso section you were to use with the Freedom. Now, of course, as you can see with the colors, I did paint this. I just wanted to make it as accurate as possible and, as metallic as I could. But yes, it would be pretty much mostly white out of the box, just a heads up. But yes, you will cut this plus the sword, and what you do is, of course, you break the sword, as you can see, and you would attach said sword through this new Freedom torso, and voila, you would be literally stabbing it to death. And of course, in a few minutes, I will assemble the Freedom like this so you can see it at its full glory. But for now, let's go back to these two so you can now check out their articulation. For like the Freedom, it has a ball jointed shoulders, so it's a full 360 with no problem there. Its hinges can go all the way up that far with the joint there. It has a double arm joint right there, so of course you can bend it all the way back this way like that. So, that is one of the things I was about to mention, actually, is the backpack. Unfortunately, even though it has a dual peg setup for the back, it does tend to pop off because it's just not like a complete tight fit, unfortunately. I mean, it's an easy fix, though, of course. So just a heads up for that. But back to the arm. A ball jointed wrist, of course, for the hands. And as you can see with this hand, yes, the beam sabers can fit in it with no problem, but they also just slide in it. So you can, of course, drop those, but if enough force, but they hold in pretty well, as you can see. But the only known flaw I've had with the beam sabers themselves is that even though they do attach to the skirt here, which is pretty cool, the one issue is that they can be popped out really easily. So be careful with that because, you could always lose it and you don't want to do that. I mean, that would really suck, trust me. Now, of course, to leg articulation with the skirt armor up, you can go that far. You can go so far back before you bump into the back skirt. And because of the hinge, you can go about that far before you pop anything off, of course. Like that. And as you can see with the side skirt, it has its own articulation, of course. And yes, of course, you can pull out the rail weapons, as you can see here, by just doing that. And of course, like that. And there you go. And yes, these have handles so you can attach it to the hand if you want. Oh, yep, see what I mean? Like that, you can easily pop them and such there. And as for like the wings, as you were seeing before, you can flap all the way as much as you can this way. It has a joint, a peg up, so you can of course twist, turn all you want. And of course the big gimmick you want is that you can open the wings up as far as you want. So you can of course put in the best flight poses for it. And of course the biggest gimmick, the rail gun that attaches on the back. Now of course when you're setting up, move the head a little, of course. But there you go. Pretty awesome. And it also has a hinge so you can turn it sideways. Though I don't think I've ever seen the Freedom do that in the actual anime, so that's just that. And the only thing you have to like paint with that part is the red trim, like I mentioned before. And such like that. And as for like the torso area, you can do so much of almost a 360 without bumping into like other parts and such. Now, of course, if you remove the gun from the back here, which I plugged in, which actually holds on pretty well, I like that fact because that gives me the opportunity to display the swords without having to store the gun somewhere. So that's a pretty awesome fact. There you go. And yeah, like I said, you can. It also has a pretty nice app crunch, so that's a good thing. And as for the head, you can go pretty much full 360 almost, without bumping into the side armor and such. There you go. And it can go back and forth as much as you want, up, down, and so forth. Now, the cool part with this is that the eyes are clear, and with some, for the eyes back there, and with like a little silver or something, you can bring out the eyes through light like that. It's a pretty cool gimmick. I like that. And such like that. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the Freedom there. Oh, wait, actually, first off, before I forget, here's, of course, its gun, the classic Freedom's weapon. A really nice weapon and really nice details. And the only paintwork you need is just the blue right there. Everything else is color separate. Well, minus the scope, of course, but that's natural. And yeah, now let's take a quick look over at our good buddy, the Impulse. As you can see, fully decked out in his standard weapons, starting with his epic shield, which, yes, as I showed you before, you do need to disassemble this shield onto this shield to give it the open look, of course. I mean, don't get me wrong, it would have been awesome if it could have done it, but I can understand because it is a high grade. But as you can see, with the ball joint set up, and of course, without bumping into certain back armor, you can go full 360 that way. The joint in the chest allows you to move the arm all the way up for, of course, for transformation reasons. Ball jointed wrist, no problem. And the, of course, joint in the arm allows you to go that far with that, such there. And as for legs, you can go that far, and a bend back that way. And for the feet, a full bend because of transformation once again. You can go that far and so forth like that. And as for the waist, without bumping into, of course, other accessories and such, you can pretty much go full 360 with no problem. And as you can see, it's very loose in a sense, not in the bad sense, just in the sense where you got motion and so forth, and things like that. The head, of course, back and forth, almost pretty much a full 360, even with the armor in the way. Just there you go. Though do be careful with the V-fin, even though it does plug in pretty well. It can be popped out. Trust me, I've done it a few times actually. My bad, but yeah, but it's pretty good. And as you can see, the wing on the back on the force pack here also has articulation for ups, downs, and such. And same with these sections here, so you can pose it in like a flight motion, of course, when it's detached and such like that, which you can do pretty easily. And it just adapts right there to the back here and such like that. So yes, that is pretty much there with the articulation, my friends. Now, what are the flaws I've noticed with these two? Well, I'm not going to lie, yes, they do have their fair flaws. One example is the Freedom. One flaw, as you saw before, was the backpack being attached. But another known flaw I've seen with it is that, unfortunately, because of how big the wings are and such, well, unfortunately, it does have a bad tendency of, well, not staying up, even if I position the legs in certain ways. It just will not stay up. I mean, I can put it in a position where the wings won't be too much of a problem, or of course you open the wings up, but yeah, it will toddle back and forth. So yeah, keep that in mind with it if you do have one or want to get one. But really, it can stand up pretty well if you use the wings the right way, or stand, of course, when you have the wings deployed. And as for like the Impulse, really not too much. Though I did notice, like for me, like the ankles for the Impulse, and like I mentioned with the waist being a little bit loose. I mean, they're not bad. I mean, they still hold on pretty well because here, look, I could shake this all I want. Yeah. But as you can see, like with the sword, it can bop around, of course, because of the hand. And just like the Impulse, the Freedom also has a similar issue with its own shield weapon. Because unfortunately, even though it does have the handle right there to attach into the hand, it just slides in the hand and that's it. It'll flop around like this. It won't really stay in place if you want, unless you of course position it in a certain way, but it doesn't have like any kind of adapter that would attach to the arm like you see there with the impulse. Because at least I didn't get one in this set, but like I said, like this part right there, yeah, that would have made the shield attach better and such like that. But other than that, my friends, I really don't see any major problems with these two, and I could definitely see why. Like the Impulse Revive is a really fun kit. I mean, really, I didn't have any major problems with these two, and trust me, I have built past seed kits, and certain ones I've had issues with to either brittleness, falling apart, or just me kicking it off a highway, so to speak. So yeah, okay. Real quick before we do anything else, let's go into some size comparisons, starting with an old friend of mine, Lagoon. You gotta have him. And as you can see, because they're 144s, they line up pretty well with each other. And another friend I've built this year to be the Dom Trooper. Still one of my favorites, I'm not going to lie to you. And perfectly lines up with these guys with no problem. And lastly, a more recent one I built, the entry grade Strike Rouge with its IWSP pack and such like that, which is really fun. I like the whole setup here because if you know the story well and you know the characters well, you get the idea. But yeah, I definitely like this setup. It's fun. So now, before we go into final thoughts, like I promised you, my friends, I will now show you how to assemble the Freedom in its final battle pose. Give me one sec. And there you have it, my friends. That is how you assemble these special parts from this set onto the Freedom. Now, of course, do note if you are wondering, no, these specific parts did not come originally from this set. No, for those who are wondering, no, you can get these specific parts from another Gundam Seed release, and that is the P-Band-A exclusive high-grade Cosmic Era Revived Sword Impulse. These came from that set. That is, so you can get it two ways, and that's pretty much all I know for that. I don't believe any other versions come with it. So yeah, if you're curious on how to get those specific parts, there you go. But yes, as you can see, my friends, there you go, the outcome of the Battle of Destiny. As you can see, and how the battle will, of course, conclude. Sorry for any spoiler alerts, but there you go. But yes, it is a really cool display option, friends. I definitely could see why, Bandai decided to do this as both a retail / P-Bandai release, and of course, as a Gbase combo release, as you can see. It is definitely really cool. I definitely like the whole battle damage gimmick, though. I really would have liked it if one of the wings of the Freedom were also replaced with a battle damage one, because if you have seen anime, you'll know what I mean, because technically he's only supposed to have one wing right now, but I don't I'm not going to damage the wing to do it, but that's my point. But yeah, other than that, my friends, yeah, this is a very fun gimmick and a fun set, and comes with a very nice blue action base that of course looks really nice displayed with these two. Though I do have one little gripe about that specific part, is that the stand connector here for these two are very small, so to speak. They're just small adapters you can plug into the space, which is fine, but the problem is, I don't know if it's just if it's just my copy kind of deal, but they're very loose, so they pop out pretty easily. Sadly, it's not the first time I've had to catch one of these two on the display base. So yeah, but it's not a big issue. It can be fixed easily. It's just a minor note I came across. Well, yes, that is it, my friends. Now, my final thoughts. Would I recommend, well, actually, double thoughts, I should say, because of this setup, and that is this. What are my thoughts towards the Revive, Freedom, and Impulse kits themselves? I definitely, I had no problems with them. So I could definitely say, if you're looking for, any specific version, because we're talking about Band-Aid, so there's like a dozen versions of both, that, I mean, I think you'd have fun with either one. I really don't have any major issues. And like I said, the minor issues these two kits may have are like nothing compared to other kits that literally will fall apart on you kind of deal. So yeah, I still would recommend these two with no problem. Now, yes, I know there are, of course, their RG and master grade counterparts. Unfortunately, I've never actually built their RGs yet, but I do know like for the Freedom, that's like a iffy kind of deal because of the age of it, so to speak. Let's just go with that. But still, I mean, I still think that the HG revives are pretty good. I definitely like them. They're fun to build and they're not too expensive, really. Plus, of course, with like shows like the Build series and other such stuff, there are, of course, many variations of these two, or at least the molds were based from. So there's options if you wanted to go with one of their build counterparts for fun. If not, of course, like for the Impulse, there are, of course, the revived Sword and Blast versions, so you got options and such like that. But yeah, lastly, yeah, I would say individually, if you're looking for one specific version of these two, yes, I could easily recommend it with no problem. Now, of course, if you happen to be someone that wants to get the whole combo set up like you see here, uh, I mean, yeah, I believe the Battle of Destiny set's not a bad, item to pick up. I mean, if you don't have the revives like myself, and you're going to want to get both anyway, and you can actually get this with no problem. Yeah, sure, why not? It's a fun setup. I definitely like it, and it's going to be a fun display piece on my shelf. So I like that. It's really going to be fun. And even though I really do wish there was one other set I could get my hands on that would look great with this set, and that was the special, sadly exclusive Metallic Justice Ignite versus the Destiny Gundam set. That was sadly, if I remember correctly, a Yokohama exclusive, and unfortunately, it's not the kind that gets reprinted. So it would have been nice to have them together because they're all metallic and characters and the anime story reasons, stuff like that. But yes, I fully recommend these two either way, either retail or in the combo you see here. So thank you all, and thank you always for coming. I hope you're, of course, enjoying your hobby, and I will see you all later and into the new year. See you all later.